Dillon by mail, Swayne by rail. A glimpse of a Kansas mining town. Driving west over the hill and further down 700 Avenue in Dickson County than I normally venture from the farm, I headed toward Dillon. My grandma, Marilyn Stroda, who owns a farm just north of Hope, Kansas, not far from Dillon, came with me on the 5-minute trip. As we drove along 700 Avenue, we hit a stop sign at the intersection with Key Road, and Grandma turned to me and said, "You've just hit the middle of what used to be the town of Dillon." Today, at the center of the non-existent town stands 3 houses. South up the hill sits the Dillon Elevator, part of the North Central Kansas Cooperative. Down the hill to the northwest runs Turkey Creek, which runs through Dickinson County until it hits the Smoky Hill River south of Abilene. The elevator sits 1 mile north of Highway 4 and 4 miles east of Kansas Highway 15. This is what is left of the once thriving community with a population of over 1,000, the town of Dillon. The center of Dillon, the intersection of 700 Avenue and Key Road, sits in the 4 corners of 4 townships. The northeast corner of the town was in the Ridge Township. The southeast corner of Dillon was in the Hope Township. The southwest corner of town was located in the Banner Township, and the northwest corner of Dillon sat in the Jefferson Township. Nathan Dillon, an Ohioan by birth, came from Illinois, where he was a large landowner to the Hope Township in 1871. He bought a large tract of land, but didn't move out here until 1879. His 3 sons, Charlie, Albert, and George, moved to the township in 1876, taking up land of their own nearby. Together the family made up a substantial portion of land in Hope Township. In 1872, the Star Mail route ran out of Abilene through the village. The stop on the route, and later the post office, was designated Dillon after Nathan Dillon. In 1872, William E. A. Meek and Alonzo Evers led a colony of about 40 Tennessee pioneers to the Dillon area along Turkey Creek. These 2 men rose to become leaders of their community. William Meek secured an initial 80 acres through the Homestead Act, and then another 80 through the Timber Culture Act. He steadily built his farm up to 560 acres. This was a very religious community, and one of the first things the settlement did was build a church. Meek helped found the Presbyterian Church of Dillon in 1872. He was a highly regarded individual in this community. Alonzo Evers was a distinguished Union soldier during the Civil War. Evers was involved in numerous battles. He was wounded and discharged in April of 1863. In 1872, Evers moved to the Dillon area and started a sheep and cattle farm, which slowly grew from a single homestead to over 1,580 acres, including a house and an inn. A leader of the community, Evers became one of the first 2 justices of the peace in 1872, the same year he built the biggest 2-story house in the area. Dillon was fortunate to get a railroad to run through the town. The Topeka, Saline, and Western Railroad intersected Dillon. The railroad was later named the Missouri Pacific. I had the opportunity to interview Mr. Dan Cook, who lives next to the original railroad line. Mr. Cook told me that the farmers in the community actually did the dirt work to make the railroad line. It was cheaper for the railroad to hire out draft teams locally than to bring them in off-site. The Missouri Pacific made stops in order heading west from Council Grove to Wilsey, Kings Siding, Harrington, Hope, Dillon, Elmo, Carlton, Chico, and then headed back east in the evening. The Missouri Pacific named the railroad station at Dillon Swayne, which brought about the saying, "Dillon by mail and Swayne by rail." The town of Dillon was slowly growing as an agrarian community. This was evident early in the town's history when the Dillon Roller Mill was built. In 1885, a man named Gastano Kuhn bought 4 acres on the Turkey Creek, 1.5 miles from Dillon. This ground became the site of the roller mill for the next 35 years. The flour mill had several operators. It is believed by historians in southern Dickinson County that Kuhn, along with the help of 2 Hoffman brothers, built the roller mill. The mill ran off of the water power built up by a small dam running across Turkey Creek, which pieces of can still be seen today. In 1908, the mill was upgraded with a steam engine for use during droughts, and then again was upgraded in 1913 to a 25 horsepower gasoline engine. The Dillon Roller Mill closed in 1920 due to the declining population of the town and the ease at which mass-produced flour can be obtained at a cheaper price. Dillon quickly grew with the discovery of gypsum in southern Dickson County in the 1890s. Gypsum is a mineral that can be used as a fertilizer on crops, and a compound that is used to control the drying time in plasters and cement mixtures. Gypsum was important during this period because at this time the majority of houses were built using the lath and plaster method to finish household walls and ceilings. There were 4 of these mine sites. The Coleman mine was 3 miles south and a mile west of Dillon. The Klinberg mine was a mile south of town. There was a strip mine that later became the Hope City dump 2 to 3 miles from Dillon, and the T.J. Cook mine straight east of town. I went to 2 of the mines, both on the T.J. Cook sites. 3 of the 4 of these mines in the Dillon area were strip mines. Strip mines are above ground mines, which are similar to gravel quarries today. The strip mines took everything off the top of the surface until the miners reached the veins of gypsum, which was then mined and sent to the mill. The only mine which had a shaft was on the T.J. Cook farm. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Cook afforded me the opportunity to interview him and to take a tour on his family farm and mine sites. He first took us to one of the strip mines his family owns. This mine was used as the Hope dump for a long time. Gypsum was mined out of this and carted to Hope, which had a gypsum refinery. This became too expensive as the depth of the gypsum vein grew deeper. Mr. Cook next took my grandma and I to see the site of what used to be his grandfather T.J. Cook's farm mine. This was the site of the only underground gypsum mine in the Dillon area. This 80-foot deep shaft was opened in 1894, and the vein was estimated by the United States Gypsum Company to be 14 feet thick. During the lifetime operation of this mine, it is estimated to have produced 285,000 tons of gypsum, which is roughly 12 acres of area underground, which gypsum was mined out from underneath the farm. At peak production, there was as many as 25 men working in the mine. They worked 10-hour shifts for 21 cents per hour, 6 days a week. This was the most dangerous of the mines around Dillon. This mine claimed 2 lives while in operation. One man accidentally ignited a charge of dynamite, and the other one fatally was hit by a large falling rock. The mine shafts left after production have created issues that Mr. Cook has had to deal with today. After Mr. Cook showed us where the shaft site had been, he took us out to where his farm ground shows the scars of its mining history. All across his ground, 50 to 100 yards from the site of that filled-in shaft, were perfectly rounded-out holes. These holes are cave-in sinkholes from where the mine shafts have collapsed. The cave-ins are anywhere from 20 to 40 feet deep. Mr. Cook explained the physics to Grandma and I. As the ceiling of the mine starts to fall in, it creates a conical shape pointing up. When the shape of this collapsing cone reaches the ceiling, it makes a small hole. Once there is an opening to the surface, the element and the gravity continues to work on these sinkholes until the walls are straight up and down and the hole has reached its final circumference. The 9 or 10 sinkholes create an unstable and unsafe farming condition. The mines can cave in at any time. The cave-ins can take a couple of years to get to their final circumference or just a week. There was one case where Mr. Cook warned a hired spray rig operator about the start of a small hole. 1 week later, as the operator was applying, he noticed that his entire spray rig could have fallen in the sinkhole. Mr. Cook has opted to abandon this ground because of the unsafe conditions left from Dillon's mining days. At its peak, Dillon had a number of businesses. The town supported 2 blacksmith shops, 2 grocery stores, a 2-teacher school, a grain elevator, a flour mill, a hardware store, 2 churches, the Ashburn Presbyterian Church and the Dillon Methodist Episcopal Church, a newspaper, farm implement store, train depot, a town paper, a cheese factory, a town band. According to the town newspaper, the Dillon Republican, the town supported a jeweler, a barber, a building contractor, and a hat maker. The schoolhouse for the Dillon School District 120 was one of the largest around. The school was organized in 1885 in a 2-story, 2-classroom building, with 5 feeder grade schools in the district outside of town. In 1920, the district built a new schoolhouse. In the 1950s, Dillon School District 120 dissolved, merging with Hope District 100. In 1966, the area schools became USD 481 Hope and White City. The town paper was called the Dillon Republican. The editor and publisher was a young man by the name of Joseph W. Murray. The paper covered elections, school announcements, local sports, and business reports, as well as national announcements like Groundhog Day. Murray did a great job of getting business to advertise in his paper, convincing the jeweler and the McCormick Harvest and Binder agent to run ads. The last issue was on April 26, 1898. Murray continued to run the paper until the Spanish-American War, when he joined the Army and served until the end of the war. After Murray's discharge, he went on to be the editor of a newspaper in Lawrence. The town of Dillon slowly declined when the mine started to become less productive. As the mining industry left, so did the main customers. Once the main population started moving to places like Harrington, Hope, Enterprise, and Abilene looking for work, the shops started to close one by one. The church's attendances dwindled. The Presbyterian Church closed in the 1920s, and the Methodist Church closed in the mid-1930s. The post office closed in 1944, and today the Dillon area is serviced by the Hope Post Office. Today very little remains on the land to prove there was once a booming little mining town. One of the only structures left is the original elevator, which has been moved to its present location when the railroad tracks were moved. The scars of the strip mines and the underground cave-ins, along with some old bricks scattered here and there, is all that you can see of these mines. The one thing that is still in the Dillon region is the people. The descendants of the original settlers from Tennessee continue to live in the region, participating together as the Hope community.